Matt Walsh is a popular conservative blogger, writer, and speaker. He has blogged about such hot topics as gender equality, homosexuality, and politics. A few of the headlines from his blog include, "In order to save America, we must legally prevent oblivious people from voting." And "Dear Christians, please, please stop apologizing for your faith." And one of his latest, "Hey men, abortion's not a woman's issue. We need to get involved." Matt Walsh joins us now via Skype. Matt, welcome. We appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me on.
How did you get involved with blogging in the first place?
It's sort of a boring, uninteresting story, but I was a small market radio host for a while, and I started a website originally, I guess, as a way to promote the show that nobody was listening to. And but quickly, my writings became, sort of a bigger attraction than the little show I was doing, and it sort of went from there. And after about 6 months of doing a website, I went into it full time, and I've been writing pretty much full time for about 2 years now.
Well, as we've mentioned, you've touched on some pretty controversial topics. How do you decide what to write about?
Obviously, like any blogger, you're looking at the current events, what's going on. I try to, look at the issues that really matter and offer my analysis for whatever it's worth. But I do have general issues and topics that are extremely important to me. The life issue, family issues. These are the things that I think we need to be concentrating on, particularly as Christians. So anytime there's an opportunity to write about that, or if there's anything going on in the news, in those avenues, I try to bring that to people's attention.
What kind of backlash have you seen from those who disagree with you?
Well, it's kind of what you would expect, I guess, if you spend any time on the internet. You get just the standard people writing angry emails. There are, the death wishes, hope you kill yourself, those sorts of things. Death threats every once in a while. Those are always fun. I think, what I've, and I don't know if this is, this is just anecdotal, but I've noticed more, I guess, with the polarization of things, more and more, people will email me upset about something that I wrote, and then they'll start bringing my family into it and my kids and just saying, and this is what people do now, I guess, on the internet. They just, what's the absolute worst thing that I can say to somebody to punish them for their opinion? And so there's a lot of that. But I think it's what anyone who writes their opinions on the internet or shares their opinion, this is what we deal with. So it's par for the course, I guess.
Well, have you ever felt like your safety was threatened, either yours or your family, and you felt like you needed to get police involved?
Yeah, in the beginning, when my writing first sort of caught on, and I had a couple of million people reading my stuff, and then that's when I first started getting death threats and that sort of thing. I was concerned about it because this was new to me. Called the police a few times, and they didn't appear to be terribly concerned themselves. And so then after a while, you just sort of realize that for the most part, these are just people sitting in their basement or whatever, just anonymous kind of cowards who are just having a temper tantrum, and there's nothing to really worry about. So I haven't felt like my safety was actually threatened, and certainly I've never encountered anyone in real life who's threatened me. Okay,
well, talk about your latest blog on men and abortion. Why was that important for you to write about?
Well, I write, as I said, I write about abortion quite a bit. Life issues, very important, and I think from what I've noticed, particularly in my generation, in a millennial generation, men tend to be hesitant to get involved and to say their opinion on the topic. And obviously, we need to hear from women. And I think the polls show that most women, even most millennial women, are pro-life. And that's great because they have a perspective that's so important, obviously, as the people who are bearing the children. But men also have a unique and indispensable perspective on the abortion issue. And so I just wanted to write something encouraging men to speak up and to remind men and to remind some pro-choice women who need to be reminded about this fact that men are just as involved in this process as women are, and we have a voice that's so important. And we're supposed to be, as men, I'm traditional, I'm an old-fashioned guy, so I believe that men are supposed to be leaders in society, and in their families and in society. And so this is an issue that we need to stand up as men and show leadership on.
You say Christians should stop apologizing for their faith. Explain what you mean and why.
Well, I've just noticed that more and more Christians become embarrassed. It seems like Christians are embarrassed. They're hesitant about what their faith actually means, particularly when it comes to a lot of these cultural issues. And so I think what we need to start doing is presenting, our beliefs, which is the truth, present the truth, and not in a way where we're, couching it in all kinds of nice, polite rhetoric, or, giving ourselves escape hatches, or saying things like, this is what I believe, but if you believe something different, that's totally fine. But saying, this is the truth, presenting it as the apostles did, as a matter of fact, just presenting it, this is the truth, and not apologizing for it, because we have, when we have the truth, we have nothing to be ashamed of. And that's what troubles me when I encounter Christians who appear to be somewhat ashamed of their belief. But we have no right to be ashamed of it, because this is the truth. And to be ashamed of our faith is to be ashamed of God. And I think that's something we need to watch out for as Christians.
Amen. Very well said. Well, what are your thoughts on the 2016 presidential race?
It's been tragic, disgusting, disappointing, disenfranchising, all the dis words. It's really been tough as a conservative, as a Christian, to watch this. Of course, we're going to, you expect to see among Democrats, they're flocking to people like Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. So you expect to see that. But I always believed, and maybe I'm naive, I guess I'm learning that I am still a young guy, I guess. But I always believed that on the right side, on the political right, most people were conservative, and they knew what that meant, and they believed in the cause. I always thought that the conservative movement, it is a cause, And instead, what you've seen is so many people on our side have gone to a reality TV character, to a megalomaniac, a liberal populist, a big government authoritarian guy who does not represent our values or our principles at all, doesn't even pretend to, who's a cruel and vindictive and I believe, really just bad man, unrepentant sinner who brags about his sin and his adultery. So we know the whole list. And to see people flocking, to see conservatives and Christians. I mean, this is a guy, Donald Trump, he pretty much ran the table in the Bible Belt. To see that happening, I think, is very troubling. And what it shows me is that, no matter what happens, even if Donald Trump somehow loses in the primary, which I don't see happening, or when he loses in the general, which is much more likely, we still have serious issues, because some real weaknesses, some real problems have been exposed in the conservative Christian camp. And we're going to have to deal with those no matter what happens in the election.
All right. Well, for a link to the Matt Walsh blog, log on to cbnnews.com. Matt, once again, thanks for your time and your insights today.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All righty.